So help me welcome Jeff Hancher.
It's been an honor to be invited here. Are you guys looking for me?
Yes.
You know, leadership isn't always the ones on the stage. I have found that some of the greatest leaders are the ones that come from the back. The ones that don't always get the spotlight, the ones that don't always get the fame, but they have the biggest impact. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So, how is it possible to lead when you're not in charge? And, you know, I think sometimes when we think of leadership, we think of title. But let me get by show of hands, because I didn't really see it when Doug asked, how many people are currently in leadership, meaning you have people that report to you? Okay, that's great. That there's some here that don't have that yet. Hence, the emerging leaders, right? Aspiring to lead. But I would tell you this, no matter if you have the title or you don't have the title, we all have to lead without authority. So those of you that raised your hand that said, yes, I have people that report to me, how many of you that raised your hand have peers? And how many of you that raised your hand have somebody that you report to? Right. So we all have the opportunity to lead without title, lead without authority. And that's what I want to talk about today, is how do we go about finding that transition? You know, I think many people get frustrated when they don't have the title. And they desire to be in the boardroom, or they desire to be at the table making the big decisions. And so they just get frustrated because they're like, I don't have a say. You know, I don't have veto power. I don't have the power to call the shots. But I always say this, start acting now like the position that you want. And when you get that concept, what you'll find is you can start leading no matter where you're at. And I remember as a young professional, you heard a little bit of my story, that humble beginnings. You know, straight out of the military, I just wanted a job with benefits. That was it. And, you know, I read a newspaper article to get the job. Some people don't even read the newspaper anymore. And that was the job description. Route delivery, pick up dirty clothes. But then when I got there, I got to this company, and I knew that there was more that I wanted. And so I wrote down an outline of some things that I want to talk to you about, but you know, I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in being the boss, or being the man, if you will, or the woman, that we lose sight of where we're at. We lose sight of the impact that we can make right where we're at. And I think that's what leading without authority is really about. It's not about title, it's about influence, it's about impact, the impacts that you can make. I'm just going to set this over here. So that's what I want to talk to you about, is leading without the authority. We've all probably at some point or another, we've had a leader that we reported to that had the title, but they didn't have your respect. Anybody in the room? Maybe they're here. You don't have to raise your hand. I don't want to call anybody out. Might be a long trip back to the office. Right? So just lie to me, all right, for the sake of it. So today I'm going to talk about 4 key components that I think if you capture them and you implement them into your own style, they're going to give you the art of leading without authority. And I think these are critical no matter where you're at in your leadership journey. Whether you're the one at the bottom, maybe pushing the broom, if you will, picking up the dirty clothes. And when I tell you dirty, I'm talking dirty. It doesn't matter where you're at in your journey. There's always an opportunity for us to have impact and for us to have influence, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. John Maxwell, I wrote this quote down because I love it. He says, leadership is a choice you make rather than a place that you sit. Leadership is a choice you make rather than a place you sit. I think that's a profound statement. So, in other words, leadership comes from influence. And John goes on to say, his definition, leadership is about influence. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what it is. If you were to think about the leaders that have had the greatest impact on you, it was probably people that maybe changed who you are or who you've become. And I think that's what we really need to think about as leaders or aspiring leaders. Because those of you that don't have people under you yet, this is a golden opportunity. You're aspiring to get there, but how do I get from where I am to where I want to go? Start acting now like the position that you want. Start leading up in the organization. For those of you that do have the org chart, start leading left, right, and up in the organization. There's always an opportunity to have impact and lead without the title. Because I'll tell you, for those of you that didn't raise your hand, the hard work really begins once the title's given, right? And for those of you that have been in leadership any amount of time, you know that that is absolutely true. You finally get the breakthrough, you finally get the big dream. Somebody said it earlier, one of the speakers, is that if you're chasing after money, title, or the corner office, it's going to be a short-lived run. You have to be able to lead now without authority. Because if you want this, you've got to prove yourself here. If you want to be ruler over much, you've got to be faithful in the little things, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit. I'm going to talk about the different levels of authority. And leadership authority comes in different levels. And you can see those on the whiteboard. We're going to talk about those in a minute. But the first two things that I think is important to understand is that there's two kinds of authority. There's appointed authority and there's earned authority. So if there's appointed authority and earned authority, which one would you rather have? Yeah. Appointed authority says, congratulations, here's the new business cards, here's your new office, here's the new placard on the wall with your name on it, you're now the boss. And you say, well, that's fantastic, now everybody's going to do everything that I say for them to do. It's not true. It's not true. Earned authority, however, changes the game. It changes the game. This means that there are deposits that you've made, there's influence that you have made, there's things that you have done to make an impact. And as a leader, or not, but somebody that is leading without authority, you can get people to do things for you that don't work for you. That's a great way to see if you can lead without authority and lead with influence. Because I can promise you the placard on the outside of the wall, that might get you some type of authority, appointed, not earned. Earned authority is whenever you can get people that maybe report up to you or that are in your peer group, that it's not that they have to work for you, it's that they don't want to let you down. You see, there's a difference between working for somebody and not wanting to let them down. If you can get to a place in your influence that the people in your circle don't want to let you down, you're onto something. Have you ever had somebody in your life that you didn't want to let down? Have you ever had a boss that you just had to show up because without them, the Friday paycheck doesn't happen? So I'm just going to put in my time. We've heard a common message there from some of the other speakers. And I think that's very important to understand. So when people say, especially emerging leaders, that they don't have authority, I'm not the boss, what they're telling you is they don't have appointed authority. But appointed authority won't get you very far. If I am, if I need an employee to move this pile of rocks over here, if I have appointed authority and I say, Curtis, see that pile of rocks? I want you to get that pile of rocks and I want you to move it over there. Curtis is going to get his shovel, his buckets, whatever it might be. And because I have appointed authority, he'll get the rocks from point A to point B. However, if I go to Chris and I have earned authority, Chris is going to go to that rock pile, engaged, finding answers, being a leading contributor, I might give Chris a shovel, and Chris says, hey, look, Jeff, I found a better way. I can use this bucket, gloves, and I can get it done twice as fast, and if we do it this way, it's going to be more efficient. That's the difference between I'm the boss and get the rocks where they need to go, and it takes Curtis 8 hours. I have Chris. I have earned authority. Chris doesn't want to let me down. So not only is Chris getting the job done, he's getting it done more efficiently, and he's bringing best practices. That's where we have to become as leaders that are leading without title, without authority. And this applies to you leaders in the room that do have the title. Because just as you carry the title, you might get the rocks from point A to point B. But anybody that's been in leadership any amount of time, especially those of you that might be entrepreneurs, you know how important it is for efficiency and how to drive net income is to get people engaged and get people that want to work with you, not for you, right? So I have my lovely scribe with me today, my wife Janelle. She's going to come up. Give her a round of applause. So when I think of authority, titles say nothing about earned authority. Nothing. Big titles. Matter of fact, I would tell you sometimes the bigger the title, the bigger the stench. Right? They have a little bit of arrogance to them sometimes. And so we got to be very careful, even us in the room, that as we get the bigger titles, that the stench doesn't grow. But when I think of these different types of authority that we're going to break down, we have legal, expert, reverent, reward, and punitive. And I want you to be thinking about these words. But when I think of legal, if you would, write these two words. Authority and position. When you think of legal type of authority, what are some type of titles that come to your mind? This is where you participate. Legal authority. Who is it? The judge. Has anybody ever been in a courtroom? We got you now. We know who you are. Just kidding. That judge is sitting up there. They could be the difference between you going to jail or not. Do they have earned authority or appointed authority? Yeah. Maybe, but definitely appointed. Definitely appointed. They're going to call the shot on your destiny. And based on the ability to influence others, they have authority and position. Legal. Now the next one, expert authority. These two words, knowledge and expertise. When you think about some people that maybe stand out to you, that have expert authority, knowledge, and expertise, who are some people that come to your mind? A doctor. Bill Belichick. Let's go a little broader. I like doctor.
John Maxwell.
John Maxwell. Yeah, sure. What are some other titles? Doctor's a great one. Maybe an architect. Engineer. Knowledge and expertise. How about IT? Anybody got IT at the workplace? Hey, listen, I don't care what their title, I don't care what their rank is. When you need IT, you better get it right. Because you need them way more than they need you. They can ruin your whole life. Come on, somebody. They might not have title. You might not report to them. They don't control your pay. They don't control your anything other than, I need this box to work. And so they have some authority based off of knowledge and expertise. How about Albert Einstein? Was he a leader? What was his title? Genius. Genius. Did he have an org chart? Did he have impact? Did he have influence? Yeah. Why? Wait, this guy, have you seen a picture of this guy? This guy didn't even know how to tie his shoes. Fact. Fact. Did people want to know what he had to say? Yeah. Why? Knowledge. Expertise. That's called leading without authority. Because he had something that other people needed. Next one. Reverent. I got a lot of words. Behavior. So this reverent, these are based on the ability to influence others based on these words. Behavior, trust, inspiration, and I love this word, approach. Approach. How about some titles of people that have reverent authority? Pastor? Pastor's a good one, yes.
Mentor.
Mentors. Yes. Who else? Coach. Well, I mean, we heard Doug. His most favorite quote is from his high school football coach. How many years ago was that? I mean, right? Still making impact. What else? How about some people? Who comes to your mind when you think of reverent authority?
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers is a great one. Yeah. How about
Parents.
parents? No question. Parents have reverent, hopefully, have reverent authority, right? Did somebody say?
Dr. King.
He's on my list. Dr. King. Think about this, folks. This guy, not only did he fail his public speaking class in college, but his professor actually told him, if there's one thing I'm going to recommend you don't do, it's speak publicly. This guy changed the world as we know it. He got people to follow him as well. And if you are a follower of this man, you are willing to pay a very big price. A very, very big price. Did he run a big corporation? Was it a big business that he was running? Was he trying to drive the stock price of his enterprise? No. He didn't have any of that. What was his title? What did his business card say?
Human? I don't know.
We don't even know. But think about impact. I think about people like Mother Teresa. Have you seen a picture of this lady? Have you ever heard her speak? Not impressive to look at. Not impressive to even hear. But did she make impact? This is a little, tiny, old lady from Calcutta that the whole world knows. Why? She had reverent authority. People would say, Mother Teresa, we want to come to Calcutta and help. You know what she would say? Go find your own Calcutta. Meaning everybody's got to do their part. Reverent authority. I think of Billy Graham. Changed millions of lives through his message. Reward. This is based on the ability to influence others by giving or withholding rewards. Anybody in the room that has the authority to give or withhold rewards? Anybody? Yeah. Anybody in charge of pay raises in the room? Oh yeah. Here's a note to the emerging leader and the current leaders. Just because they tell you they like you doesn't mean they do. You know why? Because you have reward power. Everybody likes you, whether they do or not. Hey, review time's coming. They might not like you, but they might act like they do. Why? You have reward power. You got to be really, really careful with reward power, because people like rewards. And people will say what they need to say to get the reward. I think of my golden retriever at home. This girl got it figured out. She got it figured out. You want to learn about life, get a golden retriever. I mean, that bacon snack comes out. This girl, I mean, whatever it takes. I believe that she would murder somebody if that was her request. Wants the reward. Do whatever you say, Dad. I got it. Give me the bacon. Now, I do believe she truly does love me, but your employees might not. Don't be naive as a leader because you have reward power and think that you have influence. Because influence is made by earning, not appointing, right? The last one, punitive. This is based on the ability to influence others by imposing a penalty, offense, or violation. So when you think of a title that can impose, what was it? Police officer. Anybody ever been driving down the road, maybe going like 70 and a 55? You heathens. A bunch of heathens in this crowd. Offense and violation. You're going 70 and a 55. You pass, oh, there they are. And they pull out. They have one of those. There he is right there. Everybody, mind yourselves. He's right here. You feel your adrenaline start going. They haven't even turned the light on yet. You would swear by going 70 to 55, the way I act, that I'm doing 10 years of hard time. Why? They have punitive authority. So out of these types of authority, which ones carry influence? So if you're in the courtroom under legal, and you have they have authority to send you to jail or not, they all carry influence, right? Which ones stand out to you that have to be earned? Y'all are good. I don't even know why y'all are here. Reverend and expert. Albert Einstein, Mother Teresa, Billy Graham, Martin Luther King. We can go down the list. And you know what's amazing about these kind of people? They didn't run big corporations. You know, nobody said Bill Gates. Nobody said Warren Buffett. Great leaders, great business people. But earned. When you get that piece right as a leader, it changes the game. So the things that I want to talk about, I told you I was going to talk about 4 things. And I think a good way to tee this up, as I talk about these 4 things, you know, I think often whenever I think of people that lead without authority, there's one person that always comes to my mind. And it's my assistant. Her name's Karen. Been with Karen for years. And Karen and I have been through some things. And I have a pretty big org chart that I'm responsible for. Karen has developed rapport with these leaders that report to me. And I remember when this whole shenanigan started, I sit probably, 15 feet from Karen. And, you know, today when you call, you can kind of see who's calling in and who it is. And one of my managers was calling in to her phone. And I hear, I'm going to role play Karen. Hi, Karen speaking. Do you want to talk to the person in charge or the girl that knows what's going on? I'm listening. And although it was in good fun, there was some reality to this. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I know what's going on. What's she saying? And it would always get a laugh. But here was the assistant that was working with people in a much higher position than her that had earned authority. She would make fun, but here's what Karen did very well. Karen was the heavy hand. And though she didn't have title, there was so many deadlines, so many things that she had to get done. So many things that I would request that, hey, this is due, and that's status report, and the expense report, and I need this from the management team, and all of this stuff. And she could have easily went out to the leadership team and said, you have to do this because Jeff said. Legal, punitive. But that's not what Karen did at all. She built relationship. And what Karen did very, very well was she got people to work for her that didn't report to her. And if you want to carry influence and earned authority as a leader, you can get people that don't work for you to work for you. People that don't report to you to work for you. Those of you that have peers, do you ever need their cooperation and support? Are you the boss? Are you their boss? No. How about those of you that are in leadership? Do you ever need upper management to do something for you, but they don't report to you? When you can get people that don't report to you to work for you, you'll find success. And that's what Karen did. She probably didn't even realize it, and I begged her more than once to get into leadership because she had a knack for earned authority, for leading with influence. And this helped her build what became an unbelievable organization for us. Unbelievable. Because she was an extension of everything that I was trying to get done. And if she was trying to lead as the boss's assistant, you know what she would have got was compliance. And compliance in business is transactional. How many want a business that's transformational? Yeah, you want a business that this is not what we do, it's who we are. If you're running a business that this is what we do, you get people that are here for the paycheck on Friday. But if you can lead without authority and lead with earned respect, it no longer is about what you do. It's about who you are as a company. At Cintas, we wash dirty mats. It's not about that. That's what we do, but it's not who we are. We have to instill that to get that your success. So, here are some of those key steps that I'm going to run down through with you. The first one is just that. Build trust. It's the bedrock. And quite frankly, although there's 3 other things, there's nothing more important than trust. Trust is something that's hard to get but easily can be taken away. So it's something that we have to work on. You can have all the talent in the world as a leader. You can have all the knowledge in the world. You can have, I talked earlier in the panel about having all of the individual performance. When you get into leadership as an emerging leader, you better take that knowledge, but you better also start working on trust. Because I said it in the panel, people don't care how much you know. Or no, I said, you teach what you know, but you'll reproduce who you are. And that's what trust does. It gives you an opportunity when you become the leader, or are the leader today, to reproduce who you are. And that's what trust exactly does. So trust is not something that you put on a resume. Trust doesn't come from, hey, as a matter of fact, those of you that hire people, how many times, if you were to ask somebody, so, hey, are you trustworthy? What do they say? Oh, yeah, never lied a day in my life. Honest Abe right here. And that's when I follow up with, hey, you know what, I'll bet you're a hard worker too. Have you ever asked, hey, tell me, how's your work ethic? Oh, it'll blow your mind. You and everybody else. Let's define that. Let's define what hard work really is. Trust is one of those things that everybody thinks they are. But it really doesn't matter what you think. It matters what your team thinks. Don't walk around naive as a leader thinking because you have authority that everybody's just going to fall in line, because it just doesn't work that way. You've got to work on it, and you've got to build the trust. 2 things that come from trust. People, if you want to build trust, The first thing is people have to know that you have their best interest at heart. And we've heard a common theme with that with the speakers today. I don't know how you go about teaching that. I don't know if you can teach that. It's either something that you have or you don't. I think it was Doug maybe that said, if you don't genuinely care about making people better, then you probably shouldn't be leading. If you're chasing the W-2, you're chasing the title, you're chasing the corner office, it's probably not going to be there for you. Trust can be built very, very well when you genuinely have an interest in other people. The second thing is, with trust, people have confidence that you can help them. It's one thing to want to help somebody. It's another thing to be able to help somebody. If you're in a position that you can truly impact somebody's life, it's a game changer. Taking somebody from picking up dirty clothes to a place of high-level leadership. I'd love to tell you that it was just a bunch of hard work and reading a bunch of great books. It was some leaders that came up beside me and said, I'm going to show you the way. Why? Why were they able to do that? They were able to help because they had something. As leaders, we have to understand, you can't give what you don't have. You can only give what you have. If I need a $10 loan and I go to Chris and Chris only has 5, Chris can't help me. If I go to Jackie and I need 10 and she has 10, she can help me, but it's going to be tight. But Robert's got $100 in his pocket, no problem. Everybody on this panel up here said one thing they would do is they would read more. One way to give is to ingest. You can only give what you have. When you can get to a place that you can help other people, trust will be built unbelievably. So some of the best ways to build this type of relationship, a couple things. One, ask people for advice. Keep this in mind. You're trying to lead without a title or without authority. So you're trying to get a peer group to follow line. You're trying to get people above you to follow line. Does anybody, and you don't have to raise your hands if your coworkers are here, but maybe it was at your last job. You've had to work with somebody that you didn't really get along with. Anybody? Yeah. And then you go home and you're like, this person's a jerk. It's them, it's not me. Here's some things that you need to think about when leading with authority. That person that's a thorn in your side, ask them for advice. If I were to go to Justin right now and I would say, hey, I've really been thinking, now Justin, I don't really care for Justin. Not really. I think you're awesome. But I'm saying, Justin, I've been watching what you're doing. I see how you make the widgets every single day. I want to be able to make widgets like that myself. Would you be willing to help me? I have a few questions for you. What would you say?
If I didn't like you?
No, just in general. Absolutely. If you didn't like me, of course you would say that. You know why he would say, I'm willing to help? Because he might have an ego. And he might know there's a little bit of tension there. One way to pull that tension down and start leading without authority is to solicit feedback. Solicit help. Hey, Ross, I want to ask you a question. Would you be willing to help? And always shake your head when you ask like this. Would you be willing to help? People want to help. And then what I just did was, I gave Ross some authority. So now Ross is like, oh, now I'm the man. You just started to neutralize that wall. Here's the other thing. Does anybody have a leader in the room that's your boss? Anybody? Oh, this is for you. Ready for this one? The bosses in the room are going to hate me for this. If you have a boss, again, we're talking about leading without authority. Sometimes you need the boss to do things for you too. And if you have a boss that's a tyrant, and they're out there, you have a boss you don't get along with, they strike with an iron fist, you can't get breakthrough, you don't know how you're going to get to the next step, you just don't get along. Here's what I want you to do. Next time you do a check-in with them, Chris, you're going to play the role of the tyrant. Chris isn't really a tyrant, though. Chris, I really appreciate these meetings that we have. I know that you pour a lot into my development, but there's something that's really been on my heart and on my mind that I want to share with you. Is that going to be okay? It's not okay. It's okay. Chris, good. Chris is going to let me speak. Chris, I've been holding back on asking you this question. But I feel like if I don't ask it, we're not going to be able to grow our relationship to the place that I desire it to be. Chris, do you want to see me fail? He said, no. What else are you thinking?
You sincerely want to grow.
I just neutralized this thing. If you ask that tyrant the question, do you want to see me fail? Not only are they blindsided by the question, not only are they going to say no, but in their mind they're probably also thinking, why would you ask me that? Of course I don't want to see you fail. You just took it from one extreme clear to the next. Do I have authority in this relationship? No. Can I lead without authority by breaking that wall down? Yeah. Now, newsflash. If Chris says yes, get a resume together and get out of there. If Chris is like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do want to see you fail. Okay. Cut bait. Get on out of there. That's not the place for you. Second thing that I want to talk to you about. 4 components. Actually, I'm going to finish. I have a couple of points on trust, and then I'll move to the second point because I think this is valuable. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I think whenever we think of trust, I think it's one of those terms that's thrown out there pretty frivolous. Back to work ethic. Yeah, I'm a hard worker. But I think influence is very key in trust, in building that trust. And one of the things that I'm going to challenge all of you to do whenever I think about taking a genuine interest in people, I think you need to be intentional about that. And if you're a driver personality type in here, this is going to be tough for you. If you're the person that you're not emotional, you might see this as soft. But something that I do with my team, I got over 100 people that work under me. Every year, I perform what's called an individual development plan. This has built trust so greatly with my team. There's 3 things that I focus on. Short-term goals, long-term goals, and personal goals. 3 things. And we create action items on those 3 things. The personal goals are voluntary. You don't have to tell me them if you don't want, but I want to know. I'd like to know. And I tell them I want to know because it's going to help me lead you better and challenge you more. And if you're not doing something like this now, you're missing a big opportunity with your people to find out what is it that really drives them. Where do they want to go in the short, in the long, and how is that attached to what means something to them personally? And so I was doing this with an employee about 2 years ago. And we get to the place of the personal goals. And he tells me, short term, I want to get here, I want to make this money. Long term, I want to become a leader. We get to the personal goals. And personal goals, typically I'm hearing things like, I want to help my elderly parent. I want to help my young sister get through college. Like big things. And I get to this employee. His name was Brent. And I read it, and before I respond, I'm trying to process this. But it says, I want to take my kids to Disney World. Now, to me, that seemed kind of shallow. Like it's a vacation. That's good, but I didn't really feel like all fired up about going to Disney World. And I said, hey, tell me about this goal. And Brent went on to tell me, he's like, well, Jeff, I've been here at the company now for about 7 months at the time. And he said, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here because I think it's going to change a lot of things for me and my family. He said, I have 2 little girls. And their mom left us when they were babies. And I've been raising these 2 girls by myself. And almost every day, whenever I put them to bed, they ask me 2 things. When are we going to see Mom? And when are we going to go to Disney World? And he said, and Jeff, one of them I'll never be able to provide. Because I don't even know where she is. And I don't know if we'll ever see her again. But I think I might be able to get them to Disney World, and I've never been able to afford it. And so I want you to know that I'm committed to doing this job and doing it well because I'm getting my girls to Disney World. Now, as a leader, what I wanted to do was write a check. But you know, I could have wrote that check, but I don't know if it would have meant the same. I don't know if it would have had the same impact because it wasn't 4 months from that conversation with Brent that Brent's numbers went in the tank. And what do you think I did? I called Brent. I said, Brent, your actions aren't getting you closer to your goals. Your actions aren't getting you closer to the dream that you had about getting your girls to Disney World. Brent goes from being on a performance plan to date, year to date, we're halfway through the fiscal year, number 3 in the country. But I want to go back to last October. He gets through the performance plan. He starts making some serious bonus money. He calls me one day and says, hey, I appreciate the tough conversations. I appreciate everything you're doing. Great. Keep it up, man. You're going to get there. You're going to get that trip. I can't wait. It was a Saturday in November. Saturday morning, I get this text. That's where the rubber meets the road. It's about people. It wasn't about Disney World. It was about the trip. Trust? You bet. Because now, not am I just helping this guy go on a vacation, this guy knows I have his best interest. Genuine. Whether you have title or authority is irrelevant to impact. You can always have impact. If you want to build trust, find a way to be genuine with people. For Brent, it was Disney World. But you know what? That's already been done. So now what? And every 100 of these people, folks, I've heard amazing stories about being able to afford a prescription that we were never able to afford before and how it's changed this and paying off this and all of these things. That's how trust is built. That's how trust is developed. The second thing in order to lead without authority is demonstrate confidence without being arrogant. And there's a fine line there. Demonstrate confidence without being arrogant. I like the word swagger. I think swagger is where confidence meets arrogance. It's that line. I like to live there. There's no place in leadership for arrogance. But confidence, I think when you don't have authority, but you're confident, I think it earns you respect. As a leader or not, I always tell people you're going to sit in one of 4 camps. The first camp is, I hope it doesn't come up. The second camp is, if it comes up, I'll wing it. The third camp is, if it comes up, I'll talk about it. But the fourth camp, if it doesn't come up, I'm bringing it up. What camp do you sit in your area of expertise? Especially if you don't have title. Keep in mind, we're trying to lead without authority. If you have expert authority, people will listen to what you have to say. How many people, leaders in the room, there's somebody at the office, they're not a leader, but as an individual contributor, they're at the top of their game, and everybody wants to know why. Everybody wants to know why the winner's winning, right? A great way to do that is to be an expert in what you're doing. So make sure that you know your game. That's going to take a lot of effort to show expertise in what you're doing. But I said it earlier, you better be willing to give up what you want now for what you want most. Because it doesn't come really easy. The third thing that I'm going to talk about, the fourth thing is inspire people to find their purpose. When you can inspire people to find a bigger purpose in what it is Most companies, whatever it is that you're doing, it might not be something that gets your employees fired up. For example, washing dirty clothes. You can fill in the blank, making the widget, whatever it might be. And I think of the story of the guys digging the ditch. There was 3 guys digging a ditch, and a guy was walking by and asked the first guy, "Hey, what are you doing down there?" He said, "I'm digging a ditch. It's painful, it's muddy, there's rock, I hate this job." The second guy, he asked, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I'm digging a ditch, but the boss never really told us why we're doing this." He gets to the third guy and he says, "What are you doing down there?" And the guy says, "We're digging a ditch because we're running cable because we're building a church up on that hill. And for generations to come, I'm going to have a legacy to say I had a hand in that." Well, that third guy, some leader said, "There's a difference." Now, this person felt like they could have impact. They could make a difference. What they were doing mattered. To lead without authority, you have to get to a place that people say, "You know what we're doing matters. What we're doing absolutely matters." So we have to inspire people to find their purpose. The greatest I ever saw this on display, and I'll close with this, was whenever I got off the bus in Columbia, South Carolina, heading to basic training. I'm scared to death. I'm 18 years old. I get off the bus. I'm met with this drill sergeant that looked like he wanted to kill everybody. We get off the bus, and from the moment I stepped foot there, the first thing that the drill sergeant said was, "This is no longer about you, it's about the team." And as soon as he finished saying these words, this is what he read. The Soldier's Creed. I want to read it to you. It says, "I'm an American soldier. I'm a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough and trained. I always maintain my arms. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier." And this was something that was instilled in us every day. It was something that we believed. There was some of us that would go on to be snipers, some of us that would go on to be cooks, some of us that would go on to be police, but it didn't really matter because all that mattered in that moment was the purpose of the team. If you can find that in your circle of influence, you will find amazing success in leading without authority. So to recap the 4 things. Build trust. Demonstrate confidence without being arrogant. Be really good at what you do. If you're good at what you do, back to the expert, we talked about expert and rebel. If you find those 2 areas, you can lead with great success without title. And the 4th one is inspire people to find their purpose. All great leaders have these kind of qualities, especially emerging leaders that are looking to get to the next step. If you want something you've never had, you better be prepared to do something you've never done. Start acting now like the position that you want in the future. So, for those of you that are emerging, you don't have the title, start acting now like those 4 things, and you will get to the very place that you want. Don't believe for a minute that you can't start leading where you're at without the big title. You don't have to wait for a title for impact. Some of the people that have had the biggest influence on my life are people that didn't come from the corner office. So lead now, lead well, and always remember, you've been set up to be a champion in this life. Thank you.
Thank you for that great practical steps.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Hang here for just a second. So one of the things that we do.
You say that's not your role. Well, why are you doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I'm looking out for your company. But that's not your role. It's my company, not your company. How do you fight against something like that in a culture, or do you say start building your resume and get out?
Meaning you have employees that aren't giving it the effort that maybe...
So I have a prime example I'm working
Yeah.
with right now. An office manager given authority over laborers,
Mhm.
and then the business owner who my belief is too deep in the business to run the business, and doesn't have time for things, so the office manager is trying to take control and help the owner by fulfilling the responsibility, but then when flat comes back, the owner says, that's not your role. And the office manager says, I'm doing it for you, I'm doing it for the company. Like, there's conflict. You want to be that person that grows, and you're doing everything that you're saying, you're acting as if, and you're taking responsibility, although the authority's not fully given, but it's not recognized by the people that need to recognize it, and then you start to get deflated, and someone said it earlier, you shut down.
Yeah. I think
How
that
do you
is.
how do you work in an environment like that?
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, people are going to come and go, personalities are going to come and go, your mission never changes, your dreams never change, your goals never change. You will have to navigate different personality styles. Now, I will say, when I talked about the 4 camps, that has been a game changer for me. So I would tell this office manager, because you will get leaders sometimes that just tell people stay in your lane. You're going to have to influence up with that. And I think having that expert authority is a great way to do that. Because at the end of the day, whether the boss is a tyrant or not, if a boss isn't concerned about anything else, they're concerned about KPIs. So you better be somebody that's above average. You can't just be good to thrive without authority or title. You have to be great. And if you're sitting in Camp 4, what I have found, even people without title, matter of fact, if you have a sales organization, the #1 sales rep in your organization, I bet they get treated pretty well. And they probably don't have a big title. Why? Because they're bringing something to the table. So whether it's an office manager or a person on the floor, be great at what you do. That was step number 3. Being great at what you do will get you the ear. You know, there's a proverb that says, see a man good at what he does, he will be sought after by kings. It's a fact. Be great at what you do. When I would break down on the truck, picking up those dirty clothes, our trucks would break down, right, Chuck? Chuck was with me for a couple years. You'd have to sit and wait. I'd be the guy in the back of the truck memorizing the catalog. I could tell you how many buttons were on the front of one of them work clothes, how many belt loops were on, I'd count them. Why? It was irrelevant. But when I could tell somebody, you know what, there's 13 belt loops on the pant, they'd be blown away. Like, why do you know that? And that's amazing. It built credibility. That's what I would tell that office manager.
Awesome. Yes, question over here.
This is kind of a 2-part question. As a younger leader and someone who is going from a peer to a leadership position, do you have any advice for earning some of that authority that is not going to feel patronizing or something to former peers?
Former peers that you're going to be leading. That's a part of this talk when I give a longer speech. It's part of that. You have to be very, very careful when you're taking over a team that you're currently on. Assume that that's going to happen. So how you act, your character currently, because when you become the boss and you start telling them this is how we're going to do it, the first thing they're going to say is, that's not how you did it. And so character absolutely matters in everything that you do. You have to make sure that you have that character in place, but I would tell you this. The first thing that you would want to do, you're going to want to create a 90-day plan. If I were you, the first thing I would do is individual developmental plans. What that does is it pulls down some barriers. A lot of leaders, despite their best efforts, they're driving key performance indicators. If you can tell people, look, I want to focus on you because I know if I focus on you, the KPIs will come. If you do an IDP early, I think it'll help you. The second thing, and you can email me, DM me, whatever, is set expectations. If you're going into leadership or you're in leadership and you've never done this, you have to set expectations. Because if you don't set expectations, you can't hold anybody accountable. Accountable to what? And so I have a template that you can use that's free, that I've created, and I've used it for the last 15 years. It sets the stage for this new role that I'm going into. And it says, this is how we're going to do business. Then when they don't, now we can have challenging leadership and accountability. IDP, set expectations. That's what I would do.
Awesome. One last question for Jeff. Come on, in your circle. Gotta have a question for Jeff. Yeah, Bob.
What's your new role going to be? What are you doing?
I'm not live, am I?
You're not, nobody's going live right now.
So after almost 24 years at Cintas, I turned in resignation 2 weeks ago. Craziest, scariest, toughest decision I've ever made in my life. I'm not running from, I'm running to. I want to spend the rest of my life impacting others. And so I'm going to be helping people in leadership development. I'm going to be helping people with sales skills. But we talked a lot about legacy today, Bob. And I think if you follow your passion, great things happen. But I think it's time to give back. So I'm starting my own business, and I'm going to travel the world helping other people be their best selves.
Awesome.